I do want to come back? How is it different than maybe the feeling before, and obviously the steps forward that you have to do to actually come back?
It's just me waking up and deciding to come back. I mean, you get, reserved, thoughts about, question yourself, do you want to come back or do you? But, that day was more like, yeah, I want to come back. It was 100%. So, that's what I went with.
Errol, how's it training with the running shields?
It's great. I like it. I'm learning in the gym. It's 24/7. Like I'm just learning something. I feel more mentally just sharper. Just physically stronger. I just feel like this layoff gave me time to reflect a lot. Gave me time to just recover. We'll see that come July 26th that Errol Spence is back and I'm putting on a great show.
After years of uncertainty, setbacks, and unanswered questions, Errol Spence Jr. finally returns to the ring against Tim Hsu in a high-stakes clash. Likewise, Errol Spence Jr. trusts the level he has shown in camp and sees no need for an easier return fight. He believes his preparation is enough to compete at the highest level immediately.
I've been looking good in the gym. That's why I say no to tune-ups, because I feel like if you look good in the gym, you look good in sparring and things like that, you definitely, why not look good in the fight? Why you need a tune-up fight if you've been looking good in sparring, so I guess that's a confidence thing for people, but, I already have my confidence. I was, born with confidence.
Meanwhile, Hsu gives full credit to Terence Crawford for the dominant win over Spence, viewing him as a rare talent of this era. However, Hsu still questions how much Spence has left after years away from the ring.
How much do you feel Spence has left? Do you think his performance was just Terence Crawford making him look like that, or is he not what he was at his best either?
No, I think that was Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford is one of a kind of this generation, and all the victory belongs to him. But the question is, what does Errol Spence have left in the tank after another 3 years off? Really think about.
Yeah. Like fight techniques, or just how to handle?
Just life, boxing.
Adding on some shocking predictions, Roy Jones Jr. considered the fight between Spence and Hsu as a high-stakes clash between two fighters attempting to rebuild momentum at the top level. He also believes Spence's willingness to return straight into a demanding fight reflects the mindset and competitiveness that have defined him throughout his career.
And I think it's a smart return because it's also against a guy who was on the way up there, who made it to the top, but had some struggles, and now he's on the incline trying to get back up too. So it's two guys trying to get back up. I think it's a great situation. But the biggest thing I got to say that I love about Errol Spence is that Errol don't want no easy fights. Errol don't want to fight guys that are nobody.
He AKA no tune-up.
No,
he don't want no
tune-up. He
tune-up.
wants challenges. You understand me? He wants challenges. And for him to challenge a person like Tim Hsu, when Tim Hsu has been regularly fighting for the last 3 years, he's been not doing much. That says a lot about Errol, but that tells you exactly how much fight is still left in Errol. Errol is a guy who's always coming to the party to dance. He don't have time to play no games, and you gotta love that about Errol.
While Timothy Bradley questions Hsu against elite opposition, arguing that past punishment and defensive flaws become more noticeable once the pressure rises. He believes Spence can exploit those issues with his size, awkward angles, and willingness to fight in close exchanges.
Tim Hsu, he got a breaking point, people. That's the problem with him, okay? He's had some traumatic experiences, not outside the ring, but inside the ring, for sure. When he got that cut on top of his head, all of that, oh man, he be having flashbacks, a headbutt or something, oh yeah, PTSD like a mug. Spence bigger than him. Spence is bigger than him. Spence is willing to punch with him. Yeah, and you know that, man. Tim Hsu don't move his damn head for nothing in the world. And he got it by a southpaw. And Spence is what? A southpaw.
Adding to the tension, Spence makes it clear the tension between both sides is real, with his mindset fully locked on battle heading into fight night. He plans to walk into hostile territory and silence the hometown crowd once the bell rings.
Not really no animosity, just not gonna be just shaking and hugging somebody who he's been disrespectful before. And I've been just disrespectful to him before too, so I'm gonna come into his back part. So I don't see why we gotta shake hands and hug and all that. We can do that after the fight. And I told him that. I said I'll hug you and shake your hand after the fight. But right now, my whole mindset is in war mode, destruction, and trying to come to his hometown and disappoint him and his fans.
Continuing the build-up, Shu expects Spence to return renewed and fully committed after the long layoff, while remaining confident that the momentum of the comeback will ultimately stop once they share the ring.
Yeah, I think he's refreshed, rejuvenated. I hope he is. When he fought Terence Crawford, I felt like he looked a bit dizzy, So I don't know. So hopefully he's all right. Hopefully he's at his peak.
At the same time, Greg Hackett views the matchup between Spence and Shu as closely matched, pointing to the different advantages both fighters bring into the ring. He believes the fight arrives at an important moment for each of them, adding extra weight to the outcome.
I mean, I feel like Errol is the bigger name, the more proven fighter, but at the same time, it's going to be Errol's first time fighting at 154. So because it's his first fight at 54, it's kind of equal. Like, Tim Tszyu got more experience at 54, but like I said, he also took more punishment. I just think it's a perfect fight. It's almost perfect for both of them because if Tim Tszyu if he beat Errol Spence, he goes on an exclusive list. But if Errol Spence beats Tim Tszyu, then he gets back on his horse and he's able to ride again.
Building on that point, Hackett backs Spence to take control of the fight through sustained pressure and bodywork, believing the pace and accumulation could begin to wear down Shu in the second half of the matchup.
I think Errol Spence will pull it off. I think Errol Spence, I would say, if Errol could work behind his jab the way he do and go to the body like he do, I think he could slow Tim Tszyu up by 6-7 and stop him in like 9.
Adding another perspective, Robert Garcia sees real danger in Spence returning straight into a demanding fight after years away from the ring, questioning whether the pressure of a smaller stage may carry risks of its own. In his view, jumping directly into a major matchup places everything on whether Spence can still perform at the level that once defined him.
Fighter is planning on making a comeback and not getting a tune-up fight. This is my opinion, and I could be wrong, and hopefully I'm wrong, because I think Spence could put up some great fights if I'm wrong. But if a fighter is coming back after 3 or 4 years layoff, and you look horrible in your last performance, and you're coming back straight into a solid fight, then maybe he feels that he might fail in a tune-up fight. And if he fails in a tune-up fight for a low payday, then he goes straight into a big fight where he's gonna make a couple $1 million. That's my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Expanding on that concern, Garcia raises questions surrounding both Spence and Shu, pointing to the damage and setbacks each fighter has endured in recent years. He believes the fight could quickly reveal how much both still have left at the elite level, especially with Spence returning straight into a major challenge instead of rebuilding gradually.
Tim Tszyu is also in the same kind of questionable, how much does he have left? He's taken a few knockouts, losses that have been pretty tough for him, and some losses that were pretty bad. So it could be a good fight, but does Spence have enough to compete against the top 154 pounders? Well, we'll see. If he dominates and beats the shit out of Tim Tszyu, then he's back and he's strong and happy for him. But if there's a reason why he's not taking a tune-up fight, it's because that's where maybe he knows, or maybe he knows that he might not have much left.
Adding to the conversation, Caleb Plant praises Shu for consistently chasing major fights and bringing a mentality built around pressure and competition. He also respects Spence for targeting a dangerous opponent immediately, viewing that approach as the mindset of a fighter still driven by real challenges.
I'm a big fan of Tim Tszyu too.
Yeah.
He's always been willing to chase big fights.
Yeah,
I
great
like his
matchup.
personality. I like his demeanor. I like his fighting style. I think he's a hell of a dude, and I think he's a hell of a fighter. Still, Tim Tszyu's a bad boy. So for Errol Spence to come in and want that fight right off the bat after some way, that's why I always salute Errol and tip my hat to him, not only because he's a great fighter, but just his mentality and his willingness to chase big fight.
Meanwhile, Terence Crawford leans slightly towards Spence in the matchup with Shu, but still expects both fighters to create real problems for each other once the fight settles in. He also acknowledges Shu's ability to shift momentum if the exchanges begin going in his favor.
Talk about a fight between Errol Spence and Tim Tszyu. You're in there with Errol. How do you see that fight going if it happens later this year?
I think it's going to be a good competitive fight for both fighters. You know, I'm leaning towards Errol in that fight. You know, but I think Tim is a dangerous fighter, and both of them got the capability of winning that night.
Furthermore, Shawn Porter gives a slight edge to Errol Spence Jr. in a matchup he sees as highly competitive, pointing to Spence's cleaner execution and more disciplined shot selection under pressure. In his view, those small technical details could become the difference once the exchanges begin to tighten.
And, you know, to me, this is a perfect fight for both guys. Styles make fights, and I think that both guys got perfect styles to beat one another. I disagree. I think Errol Spence is the sharper fighter. I do. I think he's the sharper fighter. I think he's crispier. And I think his shot, his punch selection is better. And I think that he has the better shot of landing that right punch at that right time.
Adding further intrigue, Porter expects an aggressive fight between Spence and Shu, believing both men will look to establish control early, rather than settle into a cautious pace. He also suggests their shared pressure-heavy styles could quickly turn the fight into a damaging battle, where momentum shifts through steady wear and accumulation over time.
I'm inclined to believe this is probably who gets him who first kind of fight, and if it doesn't happen in the first round or the second round or the third round, we've probably got a great 4 or 5 rounds that we've had before it happens. I don't think this fight's gonna go into 10 rounds because both these guys are coming in like literally for the head.
Right.
And like you said, Tim's the kind of guy that if you are there to be hit, he's gonna catch you.
Right.
And there's this weird breakdown that he's had on past opponents that Errol has had. Just this weird breakdown where somebody was at 100% and then now all of a sudden they're at 80%. Nothing aesthetically, you're just pushing forward, doing what you do.
Right.
And both these guys have that same style, you know what I mean? I think they both want that middle of the ring clash.
Continuing the breakdown, Chris Algieri argues the matchup makes sense because both Errol Spence Jr. and Tim Shu enter the fight at uncertain stages of their careers. He points to Spence's inactivity and the damage from the Terence Crawford loss, while also noting Shu has dealt with setbacks of his own in recent outings. Algieri believes the timing works because both fighters are searching for clarity at the same moment in their careers.
Is it a good fight? Yes. But the question marks surrounding him are there. And, you know, because he's been so absent from the sport, he's been inactive. He is coming off, you know, that really bad loss to Terence Crawford. How much is really left in the tank? Only him and his team will really know at this point. How is he going to react to punches on fight night? We're never going to know. But honestly, Tszyu is coming off a really bad run himself. So I do actually think it's a good matchup in terms of timelines, their timelines crossing. It makes sense.
Still, confidence around Spence remains strong. Ronnie Shields believes Spence does not need major changes ahead of the fight with Shu, pointing instead to the importance of returning to the form and rhythm that once made him one of the division's most avoided fighters. He also feels Spence has looked sharp and focused in training, while working toward rediscovering that level again.
But I think for Errol, you know, Errol just had to be Errol, you know. You got to get back to what got him to where he's supposed to be, you know. And, you know, Errol, you know, he has one defeat, you know, and that's against Terence Crawford. But before then, people were avoiding him like the plague, you know, because, you know, he's just that good. So I think he just got to get himself back into shape and get himself positioned to where he can do things that he did before.
What have you seen from Errol on his way to this fight and coming back against Tim Tszyu?
Well, you know, just being in the gym with him, you know, we was in the gym for like 3-4 days together, and, you know, everything's looking good. You know, he's feeling good, and he's trying to just recapture what he left.
However, Derek James acknowledges the long layoff raises questions around Spence, but insists the bigger issue is Shu's pressure and physical style. He argues that Tszyu forces opponents to rely on movement, discipline, and ring control because standing in front of him for too long can quickly become dangerous. For Spence, the challenge is not just inactivity, but handling sustained pressure against a naturally aggressive fighter.
You think Tim Tszyu has a favor because of the 3-year layoff from the Errol Spence had, maybe?
I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know. I think Errol is going to do whatever he's going to do, but I think that, you know, Tim Tszyu is a very tough fighter, and you got to be able to use your feet and you got to be able to box him, because if not, he's going to try to bang you out. So, you know, you just got to be prepared for that.
Ironically, that same pressure may favor Spence. Zab Judah argues Tszyu's forward-moving style matches up well for Spence at this stage of his return. He explains that Spence has historically controlled opponents who stay in range and engage directly, making Tszyu the type of fighter that could allow him to regain rhythm and authority.
And that's the kind of fight that Errol Spence needs. A guy like Tim Tszyu. While Tim Tszyu possesses a fight, he's going to stand right in front of Errol Spence and he's going to fight. That's the fight that we've known Errol Spence to dominate guys in. You know what I'm saying? We know that for anybody standing in front of Errol Spence toe-to-toe, he's going to destroy them. So, I mean, this might be the perfect opponent that Errol Spence needs to come back to show the world who Errol Spence really is.
On the other hand, Bernie the boxer expects Spence to rebound strongly at 154 and believes the style matchups favor him against most of the division. He argues that Spence's loss to Crawford came against a rare generational talent, and he does not view the majority of the current contenders at junior middleweight in the same category. Outside of Jaron Ennis, he believes Spence still has the tools to re-establish himself at the top level.
Errol Spence, it's be a good fight. You know, I expect him to win. That's what I'm saying. I expect him to win and go on and do things. I think he's gonna, you know, probably pick up where he left off at. Like I say, styles make fights. He ran into a Crawford that's a generational talent. I don't see those guys out there as generational talents at 154. Really good fighters. And outside of Boots, you know, they giving him the worldly title tag. But like I'm saying, other than that, I expect Spence to do his thing.
Furthermore, boxing analysts believe Spence could pose difficult physical and tactical problems for Tszyu, citing Spence's size and ability to control the rhythm from range. He also questions whether Tszyu can consistently deal with the volume and structure behind Spence's lead hand over the course of the fight.
Interesting thing is, Errol Spence, I think, is bigger than him. Even though he's never officially fought at 154, I think Errol's a bigger man than him once he gets up to 54. And the main problem for Tim Tszyu against Errol is going to be that jab. What does he do against that busy, constant jab
Errol with
from
the
on
constant
Errol's
jab,
side?
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Errol just
yeah.
keeping that jab in his face.
Yeah.
That, I mean, when Bomac prepared for Terrence, he said that's the #1 thing we got to take away from him. He fights off his jab. He gets confidence off his. He builds off his jab. He dominates you off the jab. So take the jab away, and we got the fight won.
Right.
Tim Tszyu is not Terence Crawford, so I don't know how he deals with that jab.
After 3 years away from the ring, following the loss to Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. now returns straight into a dangerous fight against Tim Tszyu, with major questions surrounding what he still has left at the highest level. Instead of easing back into competition, Spence has chosen a matchup that immediately tests his timing, sharpness, and ability to handle pressure against an active and dangerous opponent. At the same time, Tszyu enters the fight looking to rebuild momentum after difficult setbacks of his own, turning this into a high-stakes clash for both fighters. One performance could completely shift the direction of a career, while another loss could deepen the uncertainty surrounding their future at the top level. So now it comes down to you. Does Errol Spence Jr. successfully restart his run back to the top, or does Tim Tszyu stop the comeback before it truly begins? Drop your prediction below, hit like if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe for more high-level boxing analysis.